Welcome to the Brazil Fantasy Football Show. I am Mafra, as you guys all know me, the Mafrismo guy, which I'm wearing my fantasy T-shirt for our conversation today. And I have my very good friend, actually Robert May's good friend, Nate Tice. Hey Nate, how's it going?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me. Yeah, BFF. So it's like I saw that and I was like, is this Best Friends Forever podcast?
Yeah.
So we had to go to that. But no, I'm very, very, very happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, the BRFF is a weird thing because I can never pronounce it correctly. Even like in Portuguese, it is BRFF. I always have a
Yeah.
problem pronouncing it, so I was always say Brazil Fantasy Football, as you guys just seen. So yeah, and I also have my very, very good friend, which is João. This is the first time that we're recording together. We have been having
Yeah.
lots of conversations. We have a lot of agreements and a lot of disagreements. João, how's it going, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great, mate. It's so nice to be here with Nate. Yeah, I have to admit, I am a fan. I I don't think I
Awesome.
ever disagreed with anything Nate ever said in a podcast, which is absurdly rare.
Oh, that's awesome. That's why I fired
Yeah.
up. It's because it's like I know I just came on and I could tell like I've had interactions, of course, with a lot of Brazilian fans, including you guys, on Twitter, and I've always said this is just that I feel like the Brazilian audience and some Scandinavians I'll throw in there probably we get the best questions and best observations. I think so. I just know you guys are a sports first country, but also just like ball. So it's kind of fun. That's why I'm very excited to do this.
That's a very interesting thing because it's one of the things that I want to talk to you today in the pod, which is about knowing ball, right? I think we are like fans, and we have a very big group, and which is growing, especially for the NFL. But I think we approach the NFL and we approach how we support the teams a little bit different because we are not in the same country. We do not have maybe the geography, right, to kind of choose teams and stuff. I am a Packers fan. João is a Saints fan. He does not like to admit that anymore. He says he's a Drake May fan now, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's a Saints
Yeah,
fan.
all right. I'm
Yes,
definitely on the right pod.
yes, we
Now
are.
we're
Like,
talking. Now we're
yes,
talking.
okay. We're not going to go through Drake May specifically, otherwise this is going to become the Drake May show because we are all three are like infatuated with the Drake May and how
Yes.
how good he is. But it's interesting that how Brazilians approach it, and this is something that I want to kind of talk today about the view of the NFL in itself, right? So first and foremost, Nate, just to give a little bit of introduction, your father was a head coach for the Minnesota Vikings, right? For a while,
Yeah.
he was also an offensive coordinator. I think your not your cousin, sorry, his brother was a
Yeah.
tight end, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken,
My
right?
my uncle's a tight end too. Yeah.
Yes,
They both were
yes,
tight end.
exactly.
They both played for my uncle played for 10 years for the Saints,
All right.
actually, in the 80s. And then my dad played for 14 years as a tight end, but they were like blocking tight ends. And yeah, but they had long careers and then they
Yes.
both got into coaching right after that, like which I thought was normal. That's what you did. You played in the NFL for 14 years and then you just became a position coach. And then 5 years, you're a head coach. That's how it goes.
Yes.
But no, it was not very normal. But it spoke to my dad's kind of talent as a football mind and a football player.
Yeah, I remember. I've started watching the NFL kind of in 99, 2000s,
Yeah.
but it was kind of an on and off type of thing. And the Buccaneers, the Raiders were kind of the bigger teams in Brazil.
Mhm.
But then I started watching kind of regularly the NFL once Aaron Rodgers was drafted in 2005. And I do remember your father's name. And I remember he was at the Bears, right? Like at the end of his
Mhm.
story. And he went out to what? Mark Trestman? No, who was the substitute that he had?
So he was Lovie Smith was his head coach when he
Yeah,
was the offensive coordinator. He was O line coach
exactly.
and then became offense coordinator the last year, and that was a whole thing. And then Trestman, yeah, Trestman came in after. But yeah, offensive
Yes.
line was my dad's kind of forte. But that was
Okay.
just one. That was his 1 year
Okay.
as an OC. It was with the
Yeah,
Bears.
because I remember his name, and because that's when like Jay Cutler was there at the Bears, and like kind of that's when I grew like my not hatred, but like for me the Bears are fun because we are always winning against them. But yeah, but I don't remember him. And you yourself, you were a quarterback during college, right?
Mhm.
You never played professionally, but you were a quarterback at college, right? And you play with
Yeah,
some kind of famous people, right? J.J.
yeah.
Watt being I think the biggest one at Wisconsin, but you
Mhm.
also had, as I said before, the Packers icon, Jared Abbrederis,
So fun.
which was that's super nice. And also you play with Troy Fumagalli, which is a Brazilian, a guy that Brazilians they know because we used to have a soccer player called Fumagalli. So in Brazil, we always like when we ever had like the Troy Fumagalli thing, we're like, oh, is this guy playing at this Brazilian team? So
It's his
we
cousin.
also, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's family. Yeah, Fumagalli
Yeah.
is not very common, but you did play
You had
right in college.
a half. Yes, I was at Wisconsin. My first year, I went to UCF in Orlando, and then I kind of wanted. I originally was going to go to South Dakota State of all places, and then Wisconsin came calling, and they were kind of straight up with me. They're like, "You might not play, but you have a spot. We're going to have a scholarship for you. You can compete, whatever." And the guy I first backed up at quarterback was Scott Tolzien, who was a
Yes,
partial
another
starter for the
Packers.
Packers. Yes, and
Yes.
now the quarterback's coach for the Cowboys, and Scotty's
Hmm.
another very smart football mind. And then I backed up Russell Wilson for a year. So this, yeah, I said to you guys on the pre-show, but I really had a Forrest Gump type of existence in my life where it truly is. I interact with these people for a year and they just go on to these great things. It's kind of cool. It's awesome. But I get into stories sometimes and I don't ever like want to sound like I'm bragging or anything, but it's like, no, I actually did. I was roommates with him. Or it's like, no, I actually was like, yeah, we got drinks one time. It's like just kind of how those kind of things go. But no, Wisconsin was awesome because yeah, I my best connection I made there, Brett Bielema was the head coach, who's now the head coach at University of Illinois, but Paul Christ was the offensive coordinator. And Paul Christ, I outside of my dad is probably my biggest football influence,
Hmm.
biggest football mentor as far as football philosophy, football ethics, football dogma is what I kind of have referred to sometimes. But he is now an assistant at University of Texas. He was the head coach. He went back to Wisconsin. I was a graduate assistant for him at University of Pittsburgh, where Aaron Donald was there to bring up more for Forrest Gump comparisons. So yeah, I went from JJ Watt to Aaron Donald in college. That's it was,
Not
and
bad
then
at all.
Not bad.
grew up around John Randall, Kevin Williams, like just like yeah. I look. Julius Peppers was with the Bears when my dad was there.
I love him, man.
Just
I love him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the Peppers is a top 5 athlete to ever play in the NFL. It is
Yeah.
like one of the most. Randy Moss is probably to me is number one, but Peppers is just the things he could do at that size is just remarkable. We can get to a freaks conversation later, but no, but I got very lucky where I not only played and got to be around a lot of smart people. Scott Linehan was the offensive coordinator for my dad. And even if like his end tenure isn't great, he still was a notable coach for a while.
Of course, yeah.
That I learned kind of a lot of things. Like Kellen Moore is literally running the same offense that my dad and Scott Linehan ran with the Vikings in mid 2000s. So it's kind of there's still influences there. So I just got very lucky, very blessed, which is not a term I usually use, but I just got very lucky where I got around these very smart people. So through osmosis, kind of got to use some of their observations and put my own spin on it. Paul Christ and my dad both had an offensive line forward thinking or
Hmm.
first thinking to their offensive philosophy. I didn't mean to dive into all this stuff, but this is just kind of
No, go for it. Go for it.
yeah. So I think that's what helps is we focus a lot on results in football.
Hmm.
And I mean, any other sport, I think a lot of it's results based unless you're actually watching what's happening. I think the game that you can do it the most is baseball and just go, hey, look at a box score. You kind of get a gist of what happened there. But I mean, shoot, you could watch a 1-0 soccer game or football game, and it could be like, wow, there's 20 chances though that we didn't see in that. And I think in football, a lot of times, especially when we're talking quarterback play, we're talking offensive results. There's a lot of just looking at box score and going, this is what happened. As
Hmm.
opposed to, and I think this is what the brilliance of American football and really just a lot of sports is when you watch it and the cool stuff that happens in the minutia. And I think that it gets distilled best with offensive line play.
Hmm.
That just the little things add up into big things. And just 15 little things over and over and over, the repetitive nature of all that. That's what football is that a lot of the boring stuff leads to the fireworks. Like to light off a firework, you need a fuse. Like you need the other stuff. Like, so I think that's where I was lucky that I had coaches that believed in that. They weren't just saying it for raw BS. I don't know what a Portuguese phrase for you know horse shit is,
Bullshit.
but yeah, bullshit. It's not the rah. We love physicality. A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
offensive line play is technique. It is strength, but it's technique. It's balance. It's also mental awareness. And I think that's what there's a disconnect with what people assume American football is and what maybe some people like to watch the game. Oh, fullbacks, big hits. Ugh. And then once you get, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, where once you realize that the tactics side, the minutia that goes into this, a double team can lead to this, a blocking wide receiver can lead to this. They got to this play, they got this pick six because they ran this coverage because they spooked the quarterback into this. And why I'm just saying all this is I got very, very lucky that I had a coach in college that just talked about football like this. And not a lot of guys get that. They got guys that chase points. Paul Chris's philosophy was we just have to score one more point than the other team. And we were like, I mean, he could say that in 2010, 2011, if you ever look at those Wisconsin teams, we were averaging like 40 points a game. So yeah, it's easy to say that. Oh yeah, I just want one more point than the other team as we're like blowing teams' doors off.
This is the guy that in Brazil, which was a Brazilian coach called Parreira, is exactly the same. Like all we need is to score one goal against the other team, and then we would win. And he was always like just chasing this one, not necessarily kind of play the game as the game should be played.
And it's just there's a beauty to that. And yeah, and I like I'm saying, I just think my background has led to where I'm at now. Is that was always what I appreciated about football. My dad coming home and complaining about a running back not picking up a blitz and it cost them a sack. So now everyone thinks the offensive line sucks, but it's like, why? Oh, well, one day maybe I can talk about it and make sure people recognize that. And it's kind of cool that even I'm not saying I did it, but I'm saying like it's cool watching fans like yourselves and from your country and just the general American football fan, they're picking up on that. Even ones that didn't play. I think it's just a very, very, very cool where we're at. That here I am in Las Vegas talking to you guys in Brazil about stuff like this. I think just it's a very, very cool thing. Sorry, this is a rambling thing, but yeah, I just had a couple thoughts there.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You touch it into so many points, and one of the reasons that why I fell in love with the game is exactly what you mentioned about being so strategic and so a focus on the minutiae of things, and it's not like I have Tom Brady, so I'm gonna win this thing. It's even with Tom Brady. He has this interview recently where he's like, everybody needs to execute his specific part. So I need to understand if the safety is coming with this blitz from the right hand side, I need to have the right guard and the right tackle paying attention to that. I can be the best quarterback, I have the best arm, but if they are not executing, I won't be able to proceed. My team is not going to be able to progress, which is amazing. And you mentioned something that I want to kind of delve into a little bit. When you're talking about college and you mentioned Scott Tolzien specifically, you said that he was like very football savvy, right? And I would imagine that a lot, if not all of these guys who become eligible to go through the draft or they want to become professional athletes, right? They are all kind of above the average. They are all amazing in themselves. And I want to understand, like, what does this grind look like on a day-to-day basis on college? So how would you define or how would you see those guys as saying, these guys are good in college because they do this, this, and that. Not necessarily the skill set, right? Like, oh, he runs crispy routes or he has like a cannon for an arm, like these kind of boilerplates, things that we usually use during the draft. But like more about the grind itself on college. So how does that look like? Because we do not have these visibility sometimes.
Yeah, there's a term I've always heard. I always kind of rejected it, but it does have some truism to it. Is that embrace the grind is a big thing with football. Football preparation sucks. I'm not gonna. There's no ifs and buts about it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of preparation, not just physically but mentally, and that is something. Even I grew up around the game. I don't think I understood what it was to truly work at football until my senior year of college. And it was truly being around. And I was at a tough program, first at UCF under George O'Leary, and then at Wisconsin with a lot of hardworking guys, a lot of guys that really like smart, had to grind at the game, were 2-star guys that grew into better players. But honestly, the guy that I was like, oh, that's what it's like to work was I got around Russell Wilson. And that was because Russell's in that office every day at 6 a.m. in college. No one else was doing that, studying all the stuff. I'm there at 7:30. But it's just that little difference, just an hour and a half difference, but those add up. And why that's just playing. There's so much about, it's a physical sport. In college, you're playing 12 games in the regular season, but you're preparing it for 353 other days. Like that's a lot of preparation for not a lot of games. And that you have to embrace that. You have to embrace having practice and embrace hey, we're in pads this day, that, hey, we have inside period, which is just truly hitting on each other and working on run fits, because so much about football is about trusting your teammate and doing you're talking about the Tom Brady quote. It is the perfect team sport. 11 guys have to execute their assignments because there's so many rules to it. There's so many, the defensive players have to be to their assigned gap. The offensive player has to go to the exact guy that they have to go to, because the guy to their left knows that he's going to the other guy, that if they go to the same guy, one guy's unblocked. But all that comes with practice, and practice on the field, and practice in the meeting room. I would say, especially once you get to the NFL level, more comes from meetings and walkthroughs as much as comes from practice, because guys just have to be so mentally sharp. And I would say that that's what's kind of gets underappreciated. People think the ball just gets rolled out. They just dial up some ball plays. Oh, he gets open. He's a great route runner. Thinking that like the guy just invented the route like on the fly and the quarterback knew when to throw it. So much of this is timing and discipline, and the ball has to be out at this time because the route's going to be at this distance, and because the protection is blocking for this amount of seconds. Once you realize that it's all connected together, that's when I think a lot of people's light bulbs come on, and they go, oh, that guy took a deeper drop back because it's a longer route. And because it's a longer route, they need guys chip helping. Everything's connected. But how everybody has to be on the same page, it's a lot of work. It's just a lot of preparation. But I'll just get into an example of my coaching week when I was with the Raiders. And I would say Jack Del Rio and the Raiders, we did not have, I would say we were middle grinders. I would say we were not on the high end. We were not the Patriots guys, but we were not like the Seahawks guys who were just kind of loosey goosey. Hey, but I'm trying to bring up both those teams because they both had success. So that's the million ways to skin.
There's no one blueprint, right? Everything can work until you have like the
there's some guys are Josie and some guys are Greg Berhalter, our guy. But so I would say it's a game happened, 1 o'clock game, and me as a quality control coach, I would go in to the facility or onto my laptop if we were traveling on the plane back. I would input all the what the data was. So what our formation was, what the coverage was, so that we can have self breakdowns. Everything that PFF does and that we see there, that is the quality control work that the coaches on the team do. They just publicized it. They just kind of did. They did their own titling of it. Every team has their own language they use, but that's their own data that they use. But that's some of the stuff I had to do, and that's helped me out a lot. And learning the game is that it's just reps, just sheer watching ball. Like that's what I try to tell people. It's like you just got to watch stuff. But it's all right. Game ends, input that might be day of. Okay, Monday morning, I would get in there about 6:30 to 7. And I would be in there till about 9 p.m. and 6:30, 7 a.m. and about 9 p.m. And that would be game review. We'd have a staff meeting at noon. And then after staff meeting, we would have your own review, everybody review on their own, the coaches and players. Players would be off. They'd be rehabbing usually physically. And then you'd go in, okay, boom, we would review the tape as a staff, offensive staff, boom. Then we review the tape as a full staff, go over all the stuff. Then you get right into the breakdown for the next game. And then you have to have your player meetings to somewhere at that point, reviewing the game. Usually that was Tuesday morning. You have a walkthrough, but Tuesday morning I'd be in about 6 a.m. And I'd be there till about 9 or 10 p.m. And Tuesday is, for me as a quality control coach, was you're drawing a lot of cards, getting the scout team ready. It's because you need the scout team to give you looks, and to get everybody on the same page for a look, you have to draw cards. You can't just go run here, because they have to hear their language. They have to see it. Everybody's a different type of learner. Again, there's 11 guys at once. It's not just a 5-man basketball team at once. That's another thing. People forget that there's 22 players on the field. Like there's a lot of things happening. So, okay, that's Tuesday. That's a little walkthrough. Wednesday is the long practice. You're in there. I'd be in there at 5:30 to 6 a.m. and there until 10 p.m. And you have meetings with the players, team meeting, position meetings. You might have extra meetings before all that. Quarterbacks usually would have an extra meeting, make it 6 or 6:30. You have workouts in there. Then you have practice. Then you break down practice. You review practice with the players. And then as coaches, you get ready for Thursday. And then you just do it again Thursday. Thursday is the universal coaches night off, though. Thursday was like 6:30 to 6:30, give or take. And then you had the night off, and then you watch Thursday night football together. Friday, I'm just gonna go through the whole schedule because I want people to realize these are the hours that you kind of keep with this.
No, this is super important. This is super relevant for all of us. Yeah.
It's not just rolling the ball out. Friday
it's not just me getting the ball in your hand and throwing to the wide receiver.
This is me as the baseline coach too. This is not me game planning as offensive coordinator. I had to input things I saw and go like, I was in control of 2 minute. and I had some input on other downs, maybe in red zone and third down, where it's like, hey, I saw this coverage a lot. Maybe we could hit this play. But then Friday was the last kind of like half practice walkthrough, red zone, third down, touch on all those circumstances, situations. You'd be out there about 1. Saturday, another walkthrough. And if you had to travel, that's when you're traveling for a game. If we're on the West Coast, we'd have to travel on Friday because we had time zones that we had to work out. Then we play on Sunday, and then you do it all over again. You do that 18 times. Or 17 times. And that's not including training camp. That's not including off season. That's not including draft prep and all these things. But why the grind and why that people talk about so much is that you have to come in every day and be the same. That's what NFL, you have to kind of love ball. And it kind of gets joked and thrown around a little bit too much, but that's a very real thing. A very real thing about, hey, I'm banged up, but I'm still coming into work. I'm still playing and still not missing practice, yada, yada. And that's as much of anything. It's that mindset. And I'm not just saying NFL is the only sport that this is. Baseball, they play 162 games. Can you imagine coming in for a game every freaking day and having to be on every day? Soccer, I mean, I know in Brazil, they have ridiculous competitions all year round. Like they play 50 plus matches,
terrible.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. The scheduling doesn't make sense to me, but same with Mexico too. But still, these European guys, they play in the Champions League. They play in the cups. They're playing 50. I understand all those games, but that's the inverse. They have games to get to play. They have stuff they build up for quick. They can refresh and have mouthwash right away. You lose 3 games in a row. How hard it is to come in on that Monday at 6 a.m. again, at 6:30 a.m. and go, hey, I'm in here for another 12, 14 hours every day. But that's what football is. And once you find the beauty in that, the little things and the details, that's when you start to appreciate who does it well. And I kind of like in my job, I'm trying to hammer home a lot. Like these guys are doing really hard things conceptually and mentally, really cleanly and well, because it's hard to do that, especially on the fly.
Yeah. Football, like American football, is very strategic, and you have to think through. Where I would say like football, the soccer for you guys in the United States, but it's more reactive. So you have always like the ball is always in play. Someone is always with the ball, so you're kind of reacting to his movements. I love football. I love to play football. It's my preferred sport in terms of keeping me healthy. I suck at American football, so I would know. Yeah, but I do understand like how like it's so detailed when it comes to the NFL, to football itself. So yeah, it's a completely different sport when it comes to kind of these the ways of preparations are completely different, right? And the grind.
Yeah, and there's I'm jealous sometimes when I watch soccer or basketball, and I'm just like, man, that's so refreshing. Sometimes you guys could just react. And I think, and and as opposed, I would talk to Chris Borland. I don't know if you guys remember that name. I played with him at Wisconsin. I played 1 year with the 49ers, had a good rookie year at linebacker, and then retired.
I remember him.
Extremely smart, just human being. And he talked to me one time about it. I was a quarterback, offense player. I don't care what linebacker fits are. And at the time in college, and he was like, it's just so hard because I know this play is going to happen. I know I can make a play, but they're telling me I have to key the guard, and my rules are saying I have to stay back because if I'm wrong, it's screwed up. And I remember him talking to me about that. And it's just like, that is hard. That is hard to just sacrifice yourself, knowing I could maybe make a play here, but knowing that, okay, we're going to stop them for 1 yard because everyone else is going to just do their jobs. And that's hard. That's really hard in football. And that's why sometimes when you get rule breakers, you get the Aaron Donalds of the world, you get Mahomes and Travis Kelce, the guys that go off script. That's why sometimes it's like crazy for me to see. It's like they can get away with it because they are the 1%ers. Yes, they are the not even 1%, 0.01 percenters. So, and that's another thing that you try to highlight. Go like, hey, that's not normal. Like that's not normal what that guy just did. Like they shouldn't get away with that. They just got away with it. That's also something you got to appreciate too. Like
that's Jair Alexander with the Packers when he was trying to run to get like a sack against Kirk Cousins, and I was like, why are you supposed to be guarding the wide receiver? What the hell?
They call them better bees, which is you better be right. and usually the best ones can get away with it, but usually they get caught every once in a while, and it's just like, well, you take it. Because it's like the 9 other times they did it right, but it's only a few guys have that freedom. But compare that to soccer. I mean, I'm sure a team like Real Madrid, and I might be speaking on my ass here, but a Real Madrid, they have some guys that have to play disciplined, especially maybe I'm just thinking of the Galacticos and everything, but I'm sure the guys up top are freewheeling I'm sure guys up top are just going, I'm not getting back on defense. I know I'm generalizing here, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
that there is more of that in other sports because in basketball, shoot, I just watched the Mavericks go iso ball at times and just make it all the way to the finals. That's just guys winning on their own one-on-one. And I know there's more to it, but it's like in football, you rarely get that. And that's, and I think that's the beauty of it. That's what's so cool, but it takes a lot of work to get to that point. And it's not just wheeling it out like maybe some of the other sports you can do.
João, I have a question on this, especially because you've been with the Brazilian football team, right? So
Yeah.
how does that work with us, considering that we are kind of used to be this kind of freestyle approach to life as a whole, right? So what would you say, like the Brazilians who play American football, is it easy for them to kind of stay on the assignment or keep those things or not?
No, man, it's really hard for most of them. On Brazil's
Hmm.
national team, it was different because we had the best players in the country, and they were very disciplined and smart and football savvy. And we had a great head coach who kept everything real tight, real organized. It was great. But
Hmm.
on the small teams, on the day to day, people have a lot on their lives going on. They have families, jobs, and school, and a lot of things. So they can't just go and play. They don't know much about the sport. They just react mostly.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
and
I can imagine.
that's great. That's a great point though. It's how it's like high school for us. Like it's like 90% of the kids are just they're there for fun. But then, yeah, but some guys are going to walk in and know their assignment every play. But no, it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and,
it's such a great point.
and that's my comparison for Brazilian football. It's high school, and people, it's their hobby, and they are paying to be there. They're not
Right,
being paid to do that.
right, right.
So we can't actually demand too much. It's my point of view. I don't think I can demand too much from them because they have a lot of other more important things in their life.
Right.
Yeah, this is also
Yeah.
something that the NFL has done, right? It became a business. It became a structure that kind of goes young age. You have like the Play 90, I think that's the name of the program, but they kind of weave themselves through the whole lifetime of a person, right? Who wants to decide to become professional, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. Kids are playing it. I mean, flag football, 5, 6, 7 years old onwards, and it's like every sport. You got to start from grassroots. I
Hmm.
mean, in football here is like it's just woven into the identity. I mean, that's the pace of the week, especially people crave the
Yeah.
fall because they just are. They love that flow of the week here, and but that's just all organically and just our culture here. I mean, I think the more comparison is what soccer, what that football has done in America, where that is kind of like it's a little artificial with MLS and everything. But I've also seen the kind of the benefits of what's happened in the last 30 years here, where it's like some of that grassroots stuff is finally come to fruition, where we're getting the Pulisics and the Gio Renas and all those guys as Weston McKennie's, and as I think for it takes time, especially but in football took a long time to get to the point where they're at now. Like, I mean, shoot, just looking at the evolution of not even just quarterback play, and there's barely even 30 quarterbacks that can play in the NFL right now. And that's Americans who've been playing this since they're 7 years old. And there's barely 30 guys that can go out there.
Yes.
That just shows you just a numbers thing. But I also think that's why I think the NFL finally is doing a great job. They did NFL Europe before of doing the international pathway stuff and doing the
Yes.
international programs, doing these games in Brazil, like what they're doing here, but they opened up the academy in Australia. What's happening in Africa right now is fascinating because now they're getting to these guys earlier at 12 as opposed to 16, at 10 as opposed to 15. And now they're getting them there, and now they go to college, and now they can continue to hone their craft because college football here is basically our minor league system, and
Yes.
that's our youth academy here. But now they're getting into that, and I think that's so cool that guys are getting into earlier because I think you can start football later than other sports because so much of it is about mental discipline and natural size. Obviously, are going to have thresholds and everything, but that's another benefit of Brazil. A lot of people You guys have a lot of people, and I think that was something I've read a lot of studies on different countries, and that's going to be a benefit of that. But just the size thresholds that happen. But a lot of it is you have to have athleticism and size, but a lot of it has to be that mental capacity. And one of the most fascinating thing I can't wait to see as gridiron football kind of goes around the country or around the world is like kind of the interpretations of it, because now, I mean, for years, I would say half the coaches were from freaking Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
central of America, not Central America, but central of the United States. And, now it's spread out. We got more California flavor, a ton of Texas, a ton of Florida. It's a little bit of everything now. But I think that's just happened, the last 20, 30 years as more national, as we all get exposure to everything. I'm excited to see what new ideas kind of come from people that watch this game differently, because I think that's where the cool stuff happens, that cross pollination that happens. I think that's my prediction. I haven't really talked about this. I want to write about it one day, but I think that's my prediction. What's going to happen in the next 5-10 years is we're going to get kind of new interpretations of these rules where people are like,
Mm-hmm.
well, why didn't you ever try it like this? And then we as Americans go, I don't know. Why didn't we try it like that? That's what I'm excited. What happens when it gets into new people's hands and new cultures' hands. So that's what
Is
another
that
thing
is that somehow, of course, is an expansion of it, but it is, would you relate this to what we usually call in the NFL like the coaching trees and kind of these spreads,
yep.
like the Shanahan tree, for example? You have McVay, McDaniel, LaFleur, and all of that. Is this kind of the same thinking where you get something that is structured and you kind of build on top of that and you create your own version of it, or is it bigger than that by coming with completely new, unproven ideas, so to speak?
I think it would start with concepts first.
Hmm.
I think that's wait, what a tree is and what it gets copied from when like one coaching staff to another is how you install, like how you teach the terminology. That is what a
Hmm.
tree is. And even if you see in the Shanahan tree, even right now, um, there's interpretations that are happening right now, also dictated by personnel. Like the Rams are wildly different than the 49ers, and McVay is as Shanahan as it gets. So they might use the same terms, speak the same language, but then it gets kind of like that because of their personnel, because of how they interpret that word and how they have to use it, it comes out completely different, which is I think is really cool. So you're already seeing that now. So that's where I kind of mean where I see new eyeballs getting onto these same plays and going, well, why don't you have this position do that, or why don't you have the offensive line rules be different? Like just because that's where a lot of things too is that what guys use has been proven. It's kind of has to be, but then a lot of guys don't want to go on a limb because they might just get fired. I don't want to try this, but maybe if they got proof that, hey, this Brazilian team ran it, and then we just saw this college team run it. Oh, okay, let's try that. Like, let's try like, or we saw this guy at a clinic. And I think that's where it starts. It's just how you teach a particular concept or an adjustment, and then bigger things come. What gets it's built off of that. So, but that's where again, that's where I think I see that. Like, I mean, shoot, I've just even seen in other sports right now, happening in NBA right now, just the international flavors that are happening there.
Yep.
Shoot, just the play there is more European than it was NBA than it ever was. So now, just I mean, that's only been the last 20 years. Now that's where I'm hoping that NFL can get to.
Yeah, I think the path of being more international, right? So you have like the games in Brazil, you have the games now in Germany, you have the games
Yes.
in the UK. Hopefully they're
Japan.
gonna,
Yes.
yeah, they have
Yes.
a game next year in Spain, which is right next to me. So yeah, this is going to be simply amazing. I wanted to ask about something that you mentioned and about kind of player evaluation. So you were a scout also, right?
Mhm.
You
Yes.
you were a scout for the Falcons and the Raiders. Am
Yeah.
I correct?
Just the Falcons.
Just the Falcons.
Falcons.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So, how does that work? Like, because I want to understand why I'm asking this. I want to understand from a perspective of how do you evaluate talent or what do you look for, right? And there are, of course, layers to it. As I said in the beginning, I'm more of a vibes guy, so I would look at to a guy and say, I like the way these guys play, and I like what I see when I watch the tape. But you guys, you and João, you guys are more technical. You guys most likely are going to kind of look at alignments and kind of the release of a wide receiver, for example, or how the assignment on a offensive line is and what he's supposed to do on a given play. So, and you guys have more this analytical view, which is completely fine, of course, if it's part of the thing. But what is the job of a scout? So, like, what would you do as a scout?
It depended on the role. So for me, I was pro scout. So for me, I was looking for free agents.
Okay.
More, and my second year there was more. I was focused on the AFC West. I think was my division, and I think AFC West and NFC West. So I had to watch those 8 teams, uh, have a eval and updated evaluation on every single guy on their rosters, every playable guy, and then
Okay.
also have a at the same time scout. I had certain positions, so I believe I was quarterbacks, tight ends, and one other position. And if we had somebody get hurt, all right, who are your top 3 guys we're bringing in for a workout? That would be like a pro scout during the season. Off season would be, all right, we have free agents. We need a center. We need a linebacker. We need a safety. Okay, we got big money for a center. Okay, who are the top centers? Okay, pro scouts, put together your list. Who do you guys prefer? Okay. And depending, it all depends on weight and everything too. It's like, for me, my first year in the league, I'm sure the GM probably would take it with a grain of salt.
Of
Like
course, yeah.
I just, yeah, it all depends on your role and everything. So that's a pro scout. College scout, you have an area of the country. Also with American football, everything's college. So that's also one nice thing. Everything's generally distilled. Now we're seeing more of the international players, so that's a whole other thing. But pro scouts handle the international guys as well, generally. But for area scouts, you'll have the southeast of the country, northeast, Midwest, West Coast, and Southwest. Usually there's 5 area scouts. And then northeast is the lowest because it's usually the lowest amount of talent. Southeast is usually the highest scout. That's usually your best scout because that's where the SEC is. ACC got some Big 12 and their old Big 12. And it's all broken down differently by teams. Then you got regional scouts on top of that. Then you got a national scout. Then you got your college director. So if you have a player that you're taking a priority on or getting your big board on, they might have 7 to 10 evaluations by the time the draft rolls around. Because then you look at position coaches to look at guys, you get the coordinator to look at guys. So the scout, though, day in, day out, if you're an area scout, I got these schools. I'm going to watch all these schools. I'm going to watch all the draftable players. I'm going to put a draftable grade on them, and then we're going to go from there. And we're going to narrow down based on our grading scale. How do we evaluate this guy? Generally, from college scouting, you're looking at what the player can be at year 3. That is some systems, some that's year 2. But you're saying, what is this guy's role? What do we expect him to be at year 3? Then you get into the interpretation of, is that for our team or is that just for the general team? Yada, yada. Is that just for the general league? That's for everyone else to figure out when they run their own scouting department.
Mm-hmm.
But, but yeah, then you get into that and that just leads to meetings and discussions, but it's a lot of legwork. It's a lot of information gathering. These area scouts, say if I go to University of Alabama, I will talk to sources there. Generally, you talk to a strength coach, maybe an academic person, maybe a director of football operations. Every team has their own kind of guy that they direct you to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to kind of watch the watchman. You kind of have to all right, is this guy telling me the truth? Is this a good source? And that's for character evals. Hopefully you get some medical stuff from people. They might not be up in front with you, but that's where the combine comes in as well. So you're trying to get as much information beforehand. So when the real discussions happen in December and onwards, that you can, we're hitting the ground running. We're not surprised by anything that we had this guy top 10 and he actually has a ACL that we never heard about. You're going to catch almost everything. It's not like that ever happens, but that's part of your deal. Yeah. So you got, as an area scout though, and this is, if I'm being honest, why I kind of at my role, well, I was like, I don't know if scouting's for me. I wanted more kind of weekly input because a
Mm-hmm.
scout, once you get into if you're on the lower levels, it kind of leaves your hands, because it's the general manager, the head coach, the owner are the ones making the decision. So you might love a guy or hate a guy, and you still might not take him or might take him. It's out of your hands. Now he's your guy. You gotta like him. But that's what a scout is. It's a lot of information gathering. It's a lot of legwork. Those guys are grinders generally. And then it just, some rise to the top. Some are better at actually interpreting their own analysis the best, but that's as much as it is anything. I think anyone can get that information gathering and put in that hard work. It then becomes the science, or not the science, of the artistry of it. How do I interpret all these results, all these tangible results, and actually turn it into something?
Which one are the ones that you feel are, it's difficult to use the word itself best, but like which are the scouting groups of the scouting teams that you feel are very successful? Because I have a feeling that
Yeah,
the Ravens, the Steelers, the Packers, they're very
Ravens.
good at doing those things.
Yep.
But which ones do you think are like very, very good at this, and why would you say that?
Ravens, Packers, Cowboys are really good at drafting. Actually exceptionally good at drafting. Those are ones that come to mind. The Rams now,
Hmm.
I think Les Snead has done a really good job at knowing you got to know what you are. I think that's the number one thing is there's sometimes sometimes organizations want the scouting staff and the coaching staff to be siloed. So just so there's not so many, cross pollination, so much like, get into each other's head. But I'm the opposite. I want everybody to talk because why would I draft a lot offensive lineman for a guy that doesn't like maybe this guy's really good at zone? It's like we're a power team. Like why would we do that? Or draft another slot receiver that we really like if we have three on the roster already, the Giants. That's kind of like,
The
like why
Jaguars, yeah, why getting five
Jaguars, like there's
same
just
wide
a
receiver, yeah.
disconnect. Yeah, disconnect of what they actually need and what they like, and what they actually put on the field. So that's a whole thing too. Is I think the scouting coaching connection has to be strong. I thought my second year with the Falcons, we started doing a really good job of that, and that was Dan Quinn driven. Because the Seahawks kind of people were big believers in that as well, which makes total sense for me. I think more than any other sport, football is so scheme dependent. But there's also a balance of the coaches have to, what does he excel at? How does he win? So let's have him do that. But that might not be all coaches' wheelhouse. So that's a balance too. That's another thing too when it comes down to scouting is I think a lot get caught up and a lot of really smart scouts, really smart coaches say the exact same thing, which is what does he do well?
Mhm.
How does he win? Because I think we get caught up on what a lot of guys can't do. And we could talk about Drake May in a little bit, but I think a lot of people get caught up on a couple bad things and ignore 40 amazing things just because they get caught up on one bad thing. CJ Stroud doesn't create. Man, I'm glad I didn't get hung up on that because look at him now. Things like that. It's that is another thing is that what did they excel at? Because you might have two players that are built exactly the same. Uh, Brian Thomas and T. Higgins, built
Mhm.
exactly the same, look exactly the same. They win completely differently. T. Higgins is dunking on guys. Brian Thomas is a finesse, slant running, tight footwork. So that's another thing too. Is I think sometimes guys get typecasted as opposed to what are you actually watching? How does this guy win? And again, this gets down to the minutia of football. I think sometimes we, for especially receivers, we just watch highlights, and then as opposed to watching the 40 plays where he doesn't get targeted, but you could see some route running, or you could see some does this guy work in blocking? All those kind of little things with it too. So,
And this is
yeah,
exactly why last year I was so high on Puka Nakua. And Puka Nakua
right.
for you Nate, who don't know, it's we have this thing which is called the Mafrismo for fantasy, which is basically like you draft your guys, right? You choose your guys on
Yes,
fantasy. Like you need to
I'm
have fun on
stealing
fantasy.
that because that's
And
what I
yeah,
do. I just draft my dudes. It works out.
exactly. Exactly. So the Mafriz is basically like you go for your guys, the guys you enjoy watching. And I remember
Yes.
last year I was watching Puka and Jim Nagy, which was also the guy for the Senior Bowl, right?
Yep.
He was tweeting a little bit about him, and I was like, I really like this guy. He's not like flashing himself as like the big player type of guy, but you see he's always running around. He's always like blocking his ass off. I would see kind of small things, and I'm not an evaluator, right? Like you will be way more qualified to kind of see if he's running the right route and stuff like that. João is also way more detailed than I am in this, but I was like, this guy belongs. This guy has a feeling to it, and he was a completely late round. In fantasy, a lot of people now, a lot of Brazilians, they tell me that they draft Puka Nakua because I was talking about him so much. Yeah, João was also part of
Yeah.
the Puka Nakua train, the Nakua Matata. So yeah, this is kind of a vibe type of thing that we have. And it's completely, I think it completely aligns with what you said. Like, it's not necessarily just the big plays, but like, what else are they doing that makes sense?
Yeah. It's something I really, I will say, and being frank about kind of my time with the Falcons was something I felt there was a disconnect sometimes where some of the coaches and even some of the scouts were so traits based, And anyone that listens to me and anyone that follows me on Twitter, I'm always have a size preference because it's proven. It's math. Bigger man wins. Bigger man stays healthier. It's proven. The Packers are the number one team that follow that manifesto. But I think sometimes yes, you have to have a threshold size and all those things, but you have to be able to play. Like you have to be, and that's where you have to watch. Is as much as I am a believer in that certain numbers, speed score, for running backs, broad jump, certain things for pass rushers, certain things I'm going to look at just to be like, all right, did they check those boxes? Okay, we're good. If they miss one, I'll check on film and make sure. Okay, like I think Nick Bosa missed one of the thresholds I look at, but then you just watch Nick Bosa and you're like, oh, okay, we're good. But that's why I think it was, especially when you get to the middle rounds. Puka Nacua is a phenomenal example. Derek Klassen at QB Class on Twitter, who is fantastic.
Fantastic guy, yeah.
Great friend of mine and just awesome at his job. But Derek was like Puka Nacua's number one guy. So he was like telling me that spring, he's like, hey, check him out. And I was like, all right, I like him. I had a 3rd round grade on him. I'm not going to say I was like, yeah, draft him in the 1st. Yes. But when he went in the 5th and he went to the Rams, that was where my light bulbs went on, because I watched him at BYU and he was getting jet sweeps. He was doing all the bunch formation stuff. And I was like, well, this translates perfectly.
This is McVay. This is McVay to a T. Yeah.
No wonder they took him. And it was one of those, I was actually mad at myself. Like, how did I not picture that? Like, that is perfect. And so I took him in leagues, 3rd round dynasty leagues. Okay, fine, whatever. Yeah. But people were like trying to go like, hey, you were all over it. I was like, I didn't expect that. I thought he was going to be like, oh yeah, maybe 800 yards, maybe, maybe one time in his career. But he's a great example of there's the little things. Devontae Smith is one guy I always come back to. Devontae Smith is not my typical type of receiver as far as size. I'm a huge believer in this stuff just because of just, health and all these things. But you watch Devontae Smith at Alabama, he's blocking his ass off. He's not losing against press. Like, he actually is able to slide and stay balanced, and he was able to get north. He was a very good route runner. So that's why I was able to make an exception to him, even though he didn't meet my size qualifiers. And I still call him the outlier. Like, he truly is one for me. Chris Olave, same thing, a little smaller, not really my type, but watch Chris Olave run some of the best routes you'll ever see a college receiver run. Crafter, he's a senior coming out. Who cares? Just watch him.
He feels bigger, right?
Yeah, he plays big, and that's another thing. It's just that balance, and again, it's an artistry to it. And again, if you're right 60% of the time, you're a hero. Like that's more than anyone else can say. You're not going to be right 100% of the time. But that's where you have to have a dogma. You have to have thresholds, but for all those things, athleticism, size, but you have to watch guys and see how they win. And are they winning consistently? Not just because they caught the ball, not just because they had a pancake block, not just because they threw a 60-yard bomb. Did they complete that 6-yard hitch? Did the left guard cut off the nose tackle? Did the receiver block the slot and it got to a 6-yard gain? When it sucks that you have to watch 60 plus plays over and over and just watch one after another. Embrace the grind. Like that you just turn into your process, and then you get joys out of it. Like you really do. Once things start clicking, and just let it wash over you is the term my dad always said. Just let it wash over you. And I'll be like, what does that mean? And now I get what he means. Just let it wash over you, and then it'll start.
It's like watching Trevor Lawrence, right? And I think Trevor Lawrence is kind of a person that we now are going through a very heated debate, I would say, to say, is he elite? Is he not elite? Is he very good? Is he not elite? But then when you look at least last year, like how many passes he was doing right, but they were dropped. They were kind of the wide receiver was not running the right route, or I mean, that's what people tell me, right?
They weren't.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, like the feeling of he's doing everything he needs to do. And it goes back to what we said in the beginning of this conversation, which is about everybody needs to go through their assignment correctly. Because if one falters, everybody's going to falter. And I would say the quarterback is usually highlighted the most, right? He's taking a sack because he cannot stay in the pocket. It's like, no. Wait, he's doing what he needs to do, which is what you said about CJ Stroud. And you had a column out today, which I just read today, about like CJ Stroud, and like he loves to be in the pocket. So you have to build a team around like everybody executing for him to stay there. Whereas you have like Jordan Love at the Packers, which is someone that I really, really love. no pun intended, but he likes to float around. He likes to go from one side to the other. I used to hate him last year when he was like jumpy all the time. I was like, what is this bunny doing? Well, it's just stop. But this is like how he plays the cadence, right?
Yes.
This is his way of playing, and you have to
It's
kind
his
of
rhythm.
accept it.
It's his rhythm. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
And that's why, yeah, no, Love is the guy I always keep coming back to. And that's where, even at week 8, and I did a review of them, I think, and then they played the Lions, I believe, a few weeks after, like around Thanksgiving time, I think, but it wasn't Thanksgiving.
Yep.
But they played around that time. And that's why he had an amazing game. But even before that, they're watching during that losing stretch, and just when they're just all over the place, I was watching him, and I was like, oh, it's off. It's not how I would teach quarterback rhythm, but it's something I've come back to. And every smart quarterback coach I've been around, Paul Chris is one, believe it or not, but Norv Turner, all these other guys, Gary Kubiak, I've heard this say the same thing, but Matt LaFleur is another guy I've heard say this. The quarterback makes it their own. Like, they have their own rhythm to the thing. Me and Russell Wilson, Russell is 6 inches shorter than me. Russell is a phenomenal athlete. I am a middling athlete at best. So us taking 2 drops, it might be 3-step timing out of the gun. His is catch, bounce, bounce. Mine is 1, 2, 3, and then throw. I'm in rhythm with that. He's in rhythm with the bounce. But as long as the ball comes out on time, even if the aesthetic looks different than other guys, it works. And that's where the beauty of Jordan Love last year was. He made it his own. You watch Zach Wilson try and do an Aaron Rodgers impression. Jordan Love wasn't trying to do Jordan Love wasn't trying to do an Aaron Rodgers impression. He made his own kind of thing, the quarterback thing. But Stroud is the guy that same thing. Stroud is like, I'm standing on this landmark. I'm gonna rip this ball. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, and before that pass rush gets here, the ball's gonna be out.
Yeah,
it's really
the Peyton Manning style, right?
Yeah, Breeze, Manning. It's old school. It's true old school nickel and dime you. Marino, it's true. Those guys. It's more like middle career Breeze, I would say, is my best comparison. That's what he reminds me of. It's kind of 2010-ish Breeze, 2011, which is saying
that's
something.
amazing.
But he's doing it as a rookie, and that's what's and I don't want to compare anyone to that, but it's just like it's cool. It was really cool.
It's okay. You can compare whoever you want.
But watching Stroud, no, I'm not lying. Watching Stroud was after especially going. I went Will Levis, who surprised me. I'm a little more bullish on Levis than I thought I'd be, and Tennessee overall. But then I watched Bryce Young, and I was really sad. And then it's just I'm saying Alex Smith is probably best case there. But then you watch Anthony Richardson, and I'm really bullish on Richardson. He's doing a lot of the little things, which I kind of assumed he would, but it's even better. Then you just watch Stroud, and it's just like it honestly feels like you're watching a 7-year vet. Like it's really cool. And I got to interview him, which was you're laughing. You're like, oh, the fan of this. I was a fan of his, so it's kind of cool. I got to talk with him, and he was so excited to talk ball. Like, I'm watching Stroud continue to progress and continue to grow with these things is going to be so exceptional. But that's another thing too. It's like you're saying, is that every player makes it their own. I'm not going to teach Trent Williams tape to a left tackle, like every guy, but but Mitchell Schwartz at right tackle might be more teachable because he won in different ways, but but every guy is just going to have their own ways. Some is teachable, some is not.
I have what, go for it, João, because I have a question that I think is the same. So go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to be the guy who brings Drake May into the conversation.
Let's do it.
All right, so now we have 5 more hours for this. Yeah, let's go.
Well, you were trying to rub top 5 rookies I'm most excited about. All right, let's start with Drake May. All right, there we go.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Yeah.
A lot of what Nate just said remind me of Drake May in the pre-draft process, because everyone was saying little things like, oh, his footwork, his mechanic ain't perfect. Yeah, it might not be textbook all the time, but he gets it done. He's accurate almost all the time. And now we are seeing reports from Patriots camp saying that, oh, he's much improved.
I know, it's the most annoying thing. I know. I'm with you already.
Off-season media sucks sometimes. Yes.
Oh
yes.
my God. They're really working at him with all these drills, the same drills every quarterback does from high school onwards. Same drills, same nets, same cones, same bags. I was like, I know.
It's been a while since you last saw this energy into training camp. Every single year is the same thing.
Everything.
Yeah.
But no. But the May conversation, I think we were kind of getting to is that was Derek Clausen. Another great point on this to bring him up again is that he's getting this all done with stuff that you guys are knocking. So what happens when he cleans it up? Like, shouldn't he just be an automatic superstar? Like, what do you hear yourselves? I don't, and this is another Paul Christism, but you throw how you throw. Like you're going to get it done. Footwork is so teachable. Footwork is teachable, and the mental side is where you see improvements. Josh Allen wasn't some mechanical
Yes.
remaking of his throwing motion. It was his footwork got better and he got smarter, or he got more comfortable. He's a smart guy, but more comfortable playing quarterback. And then the ball gets out quicker. The footwork is not as noisy because they're not guessing. You usually hitch and do other things with your feet when you're guessing. Like if you're a bad dancer, you're going to take extra steps. Like, like it's just how it goes. I'm saying that from experience. I'm assuming, and maybe this is a stereotype here, that you guys are both good dancers. So but it's just,
Well, no,
no.
not necessarily. I could say I was because I used to dance like Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears and
Or
NSYNC
better,
and things
yeah,
like that. But
way
yes,
better,
but not
way better.
necessarily. Yeah.
But no, but watching these guys. So like with May, it's like he's doing all this off platform, doing all these hard, difficult things, and I was almost insulted for him when people are like acting like he was like a tear down project. And I'm watching, I'm like, are we watching the same guy? Because I'm watching him handle protections and do the little things pre-snap, and that's advanced. And it was very disappointing to hear some of these people in the pre-draft process that I thought should know better, kind of like act like he is like some teardown guy. And that, we can get a whole discussion on that. But but I thought May was a great example. I was very surprised that he didn't get I thought he was going to get pumped through the roof in the pre-draft process. I was actually surprised it went the other way. And I'm wondering what the hell happened. Or originally it was like, I started talking to people going like, is he an asshole? Like, is he like, it's just a bad guy? And everyone's like, no, he's great. He's amazing.
Did he punch his mom or something?
Yeah. I was like, did he do something I didn't know about? They're like, no, he's just like Philip Rivers. He's awesome. And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, I'm betting on this. Okay, thank you. But no, this is a classic. He has traits. He didn't run or anything like that, but you watch him. He has. I think you see highlights. It's strong arm, pushing the ball, running around, doing some stuff. I think he got underrated a little bit with his athleticism. I think he got typecasted a little bit. People see a 6'4" white guy. They think he's just gonna be a big statue. I thought, probably the best
good
athlete.
legs. Yeah, good
Yeah,
legs
like he
over
can
there.
roll. No, he's gonna be a really good runner. He's a creative runner. He's got vision. He's not just a blind runner. But on top of it, I just thought he did the little things really well. I thought the footwork stuff was more the offense, because that offense is this also, you got to grade to what they're getting taught. That offense is space based. It's the route, find space, quarterback find space in the pocket, and then throw it. It's not Bill Walsh, West Coast, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ball out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ball out. It's not that teaching. So you got to grade it on a scale. I interpreted his gameplay, his play style, his aggressiveness, his mindset, the pre-snap stuff, that no matter what offense I put him in, he's athletic to do under center. He can turn his back to the defense. He's aggressive. He had that mindset. So that's why I was so high on him, because he was doing the hard things. And I thought people overblew. Yeah, okay, maybe he sprays one throw. Did you watch the next 4? Like I thought the negatives got extrapolated a little too much with him. That's pre-draft season. Now that I'm like in year 4 of being in the media, I'm understanding that this is how it goes. And so I've learned to kind of turn my ears off a little bit with it, but it's kind of crazy how the narrative just goes and shoots into a whole different direction.
It feels to me similar to somehow what happens to Jordan Love in 2020, because you would see his game and you'll see like everything that he's not delivering right now, you can coach. And I think that's what the Packers bet when they took him, of course, because now he's like this bunny who's jumping correctly and kind of throwing you into time. But everything else, like he had the arm, he had the accuracy, he knew how to do every single type of throw, but he had like a shitty offense. I think on the second year, or he had like the 14
year,
interceptions. But that's the thing. Of course, I don't compare Drake May to Jordan Love. I think they're completely different types of players, but it's the same thing. Like you're looking at everything that he's done, it's NFL ready. And what he does not have, it's completely coachable. It was great that he could sit and stay like for 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers, which is amazing in himself. An asshole, but an amazing in himself as a player. So but it was great to do this, and I think it's the same thing with Drake May, as you said. Like everything is there, and even like the mistakes were overblown, and I think it's because there's a media thing to it, which is basically to
It was.
complete to keep kind of eyeballs, to keep kind of people coming back and commenting, and maybe I don't know, you create kind of a hot take to say this guy sucks just for the
It
sake
starts a
of
news
someone else coming back.
cycle. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
So
And once you kind of keep your head above it a little bit, it kind of
yeah,
makes you a little more sane. But a couple of years last year, I got into it a little bit too much with the Stroud, Richardson, Bryce Young stuff. The CJ Stroud stuff, because I kind of was like, okay, all right, I'm hearing a lot of this stuff. And he went number 2 overall, by the way. It wasn't like he dropped to 20. But it was just still one of those things where I felt like I was going crazy for a little bit, where I was just like, because the negatives got extrapolated so much with him. It's like, oh, he's not a big scrambler. And it was like, okay, but what else does he do? Like, and I'm not trying to like knock people. This isn't their fastball. Draft evaluation is not their thing, but maybe they have to talk about it. And so they're going to crib note it. Okay,
yep,
this guy, it's if you just were like a baseball, this guy can't hit the curveball. Okay, if I just have football, we've already talked about. I mean, I just went on a 15-minute rant to start the show, talk about how much about it's the little things. There's
yep,
1,000 little things, and so it's hard even on Twitter for me. Sometimes I've gone the opposite, where I keep my tweets nice and short, because there's so much to point out and so many little things that add up, that I think sometimes that it's like, that's why it turns into this narrative fest. And I get it, they have to sell clicks and all those things, but it's just one of those things where it's easier to just go, oh yeah, he's not accurate, rather than going, well, yeah, he on shorter throws, he sometimes can overstride, and that'll cause him to sail throws, but he's pretty good throwing over the middle. And like, that's a lot longer. That takes 3 minutes to explain, rather than just going, he sprays a throw every
yeah.
once in a while.
By the way,
You
yeah. By the way, thanks for that analysis that you, Robert and Dane, you had through the Athletic this year, because that's exactly how you guys would go through and say like, well, he can do this, he can do that. He does make mistake here and there. Like there is this game where he is not kind of up to his game or stuff like that. But you guys are pointing those things, and always with this caveat that there's so many little things, right? So many small things that you need to kind of look into, that sometimes it's not easy to just evaluate on
It's
looking,
hard.
oh, he missed the throw, or he ran
Yeah.
the wrong route, whatever. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
super big.
and sometimes too is that I always try to be positive on just overall, just in life. But no, just so positive with like evaluations and just talking about players. I understand how talented these guys are, so I never would just want to be like, this guy sucks. Like, I just think, and I get ones and zeros, and everything's amazing or terrible or thumbs up, thumbs down. There's nothing in the middle. I totally understand that, but I think that's what's so fun about talking about these guys and saying like, this guy's 80% of this, and this guy's really good at this little thing or bad at this little thing. Why is that important? And just going from there. Yeah, Dane, that's why I love doing that stuff with Dane and Robert, but especially with Dane with the draft stuff. It's just that, because I still have some of that coach brain with me.
Hmm.
Even I'm kind of like 60-40 coach scout brain, some little, and maybe 10% former player brain. And then like Dane is such a great evaluator that sometimes he either rattles my brain, and I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't even think about that. Or goes like, yeah, but, or like harps on a point that maybe I'm kind of iffy. And he's like, yeah, but Nate, you got to focus on this, this, and this. But it's just that's why with some of these guys, again, you just have to get back to what they're good at. And with May, he was good at the hard stuff. So that's why I was just kind of pounding the table for him over and over. It was like, he throws the ball in the run, he throws the ball in the middle, he's aggressive, he pushes the ball, and he doesn't take sacks. Or he can
What
avoid
else
a
do
lot
you
of
want?
pressures.
You want him to come
And
with
he's
a Super Bowl ring in his hand?
I know
What
he's
the hell?
225, and he's a great guy. I know all these quarterbacks were apparently good guys too, which is nice to hear. Just inadvertently, like off, kind of off record. Sometimes I'm like, hey, is any of
Hmm.
these guys bad where I should know? And everyone's like, nope, good. Everyone's good. It's like, okay, cool, that's fun. So I can just kind of talk about them in nice ways. It's great. But it's yeah. But again, you're just like, you just open up a scab here, because I'm just going over thinking about all the conversations I had to have about May, where I was just like, yeah, I know. I'm like, why am I alone with this? I kept comparing it to John Travolta in Pulp Fiction, where he's in the room and he's just like kind of looking around. Like that's how I kind of felt with him. I mean, I really
I
did.
remember, I
But
remember you were with Mina, I think a month ago or something like that, like
yeah,
post draft, and you're like, "I'm so happy that the draft cycle is over because I don't have to go into these discussions about
yes.
Drake May being not enough. I'm kind of done. Now he's with the
And,
Patriots. Now we can
and
watch him play."
and every time I have the caveat, I love Caleb Williams too.
Yes, yes, exactly. You
I
have to
do.
have, otherwise now you
I
hate
have
Caleb.
to.
Yeah.
Because people say, "Oh, you're the Drake May guy," and I go, "Yeah." But Caleb is
But
freaking awesome too. Like, yeah, I kept trying to say that in the process, and that was a lot of fun to talk about too. It's like there could be two amazing prospects like that exists in the world. Hakeem Olajuwon and Michael Jordan win the same draft, and so did Charles Barkley and John Stockton. Like, all these guys on the same draft. So it's like that. I kept trying to emphasize these guys are purple chip of prospects, which means to me, and that's not a sure thing, that's not a safe thing. They're bets. That's why they're chips. But they're a chip that can turn into, I think they have a big star likelihood and a big starter likelihood, but they still have bench and bust, which are the other thresholds. But that's why I'm like, these guys to me have the makings of stars.
I hope we are all wrong on Caleb Williams just because he went to the Bears. So yes, I want to see the Bears kind of
Oh,
sucking because it's the Bears. But yeah,
you're so lucky Drake May didn't go to the Vikings. Because
yes,
Oh yeah,
yes,
that
yes,
thing would have been
yes,
that thing would have gone nuclear. That was
yes.
like, yeah, I know.
yeah.
And everybody wanted it, including them.
Well,
They were
including me,
trying.
yeah. My
Yeah.
mock draft that I did was like Drake May is going to the Vikings for sure. Even though the JJ McCarthy was kind of the conversation that everybody was talking
Yeah,
about, I
it was
always
always
felt
May.
like no, the Vikings are gonna go take the Patriots spot, and then they're gonna
I
try
did
to
too.
get this guy.
But that
Yeah.
was what the Patriots ran into, was that it was like everyone's because a lot of teams liked him. The Broncos liked May. Like, there's a lot of teams that not just loved him, like me.
Hmm.
And they're like, okay, let's do what we're supposed to do. If you identify a guy, let's do what the Falcons were talking about with Penix. When you identify a guy, you take the
You
guy.
go and
But
take it. Yes.
yeah, but that's the argument I am saying. But it's belief in the players, and I have belief in May. They have belief in Penix. I don't. But but like they ID'd the guy. But the Patriots went like, yeah, so did we. We identified the same guy, guys. Like, why would I move off of this when what you do always is to get that guy? So I just, and even at the time I was like, it's not ideal. But I've looked at their offense. The offensive line is still the iffiest thing with the Patriots, but it's like the receivers are steady. It's a lot of guys. This was the joke Robert Mays and I made, was it's a lot of guys I like, which isn't always I being Nate Tice, not the best things, because I like dirty work auxiliary pass catchers. But
Yeah.
that might help a
And
young
Jawan
quarterback.
Jennings, yeah, I
Yeah, yeah.
remember the conversation.
Jawan
Yes,
Jennings.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I won that one. No, but even Jalen Polk they took in the second round. Nice steady Eddie. I
Yes,
really
my
like
guy.
Polk.
That's my guy. That's
I
my guy
love
for the
Polk.
season. Yes.
Yeah, I compared him to Robert Woods, and I stand by that. I think that's exactly what I picture his career looking like. But it's just, yeah, those types of guys. So I think they can surprise some people. They have Jacoby Brissett, who I love, and I know just knowing how Jacoby's personality, just an all-time guy, all-time person to be with in the quarterback room. So
Played
the
everywhere, right? So he
Patriots,
can fit any scheme also, right? This guy's so
every scheme,
versatile, right?
super smart.
Yeah.
Yes, every type of coaching staff too. Like, he's gone with the hard asses and the nice player friendly coaches, which is kind of funny. He's a great guy. I hosted Jacoby when he was coming out of high school. He visited Wisconsin, and I think that weather, he was like, I'm good. And he went to Florida. No, but yeah, great guy. But that's another good, like, kind of in their favor of kind of building a good ecosystem. I keep coming back to that term ecosystem for these guys, but that's what matters. And I don't know. I'm bullish on the Patriots. I don't think they're going to win like 12 games, but I think they're going to hit their over. I think it's at like 5.5, maybe 4.5. I think they're going to hit that. I think this offense is going to be middling,
Mhm.
16th to 22nd, but they're not going to be 32nd. Like I think some people are expecting them to be. And I think the defense is going to be better than, or I think the defense will be really good. I don't think I'm out on a limb there. So I don't know. I just think the circumstances are not as dire as I think some people think Drake May's getting dropped into. And I think that's why maybe he's going to have a fun second half of the year. I'm also just super bullish on him. And if he sucks, my life's over. No, I'm kidding.
It's okay. It's okay. We all make mistakes, right? We all miss stuff.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
super high on Zach Wilson, for example. Zach Wilson for me
Okay.
was like, as you mentioned,
Justin
like
Fields. Yeah.
he's like a Aaron Rodgers impersonator, but now without the quality of being Aaron Rodgers. But when I saw him in college, I was like, this guy has the juice. This guy is interesting. I can see he going like off script, but the only thing that he knows how to do is off script. Like
Yeah.
the teachable part, he wasn't
this
taught
is how it was with
specifically.
Zach. Was like, I got why people liked him. It was just he was a minutia guy. It was a lot of like, why are you leaving the pocket there? And it was
Yes.
I was lower on him than a lot of people, but I never was like, oh, he's gonna suck. It was just I thought he was gonna have a bigger learning curve than people anticipated, and it was even bigger than I anticipated.
Yes.
But it was one of those where it's like, I don't know. I think he has more bust than people realize, but I didn't think it was gonna do. Again, it turned into a very Jets-like situation. Yeah.
Things were very easy for him in college, right?
Yes, huge. Yes, launching things from clean pockets. Yeah. Oh man, we can talk about a quarterback from this class. Yeah, 2 quarterbacks from this class. Yeah, and again, you gotta watch them. That's why you have to watch them and see what they're actually doing, not just look at the final result. So yeah,
yes,
I know. I'm very excited for this rookie year of quarterbacks because I think that we're going to see some instant results on some guys.
So before we jump into the rookies, which is then now we're gonna focus on the fantasy side also. But I do have one last question. This is something that I discussed with João today. We were talking about Bryce Young, and we had a discussion this week about Bryce Young and David Canales. And it's mostly, I don't want to go through Bryce Young again. You wrote a fantastic piece for the Yahoo about him. You've been talking about him kind of ad nauseum everywhere. Everybody's talking about Bryce Young and if he can be a successful quarterback. But I want to focus a little bit on David Canales specifically, like him becoming a head coach. And if he is sufficient into making kind of, not Bryce necessarily, but making this person or this offense works. And the comparison that I drove when I was discussing with João was about LaFleur specifically, because he was with Shanahan, and he was not calling plays while he was at the Falcons, and then he went to the Titans. He called play for a year. That offense was not good. They were, I think, 26th or 27th. They had a lot of injuries, of course. It wasn't something like he sucked. But then the Packers
he was the first guy to go, hey, I should give Derrick Henry the ball. He was the first guy to do that.
After that,
it took him to like
became
week
something
14 or whatever, too. It was like, it was so late in the year. I remember that, though. He was like, huh.
Exactly. But that's the thing, like he became the head coach without having a lot of experience calling plays or kind of doing this coach thing. He was an offensive coordinator, did not call plays. And I think Canales is kind of going through a similar path when it comes to kind of this growth. But as I was discussing with João, I kind of believe in Canales because he fixed / put into work Gino. Like he made Gino an NFL starter, a sufficient NFL starter, and he also kind of made Baker play to his strengths. I don't think Baker is spectacular. I don't think Baker is kind of a top 5, top 10 quarterback, but he's now kind of a guy that belongs there, right? So I think because of that, he could be the guy. But what I want to understand is like the jump from offensive coordinators is big to become a head coach, right? Because the head coach, you had to deal with a lot of different things. So my take on like, what would you see or what would you expect from Canales to say this guy is going to succeed or not? And this is I'm asking because we always see these moves happening, and it's kind of like, how can we analyze as analysts or as fans these type of things when they happen?
Yeah, I think Canales earned a lot of respect from a lot of people what he got out of Baker, and kind of just with that offense, it looked like he's because he's been with a few different coaches. Canales is kind of a greatest hits kind of concept guy, kind of scheme. It's not so much Shanahan. It's not so much, Air Coryell. It's not West Coast. It's kind of its own thing where he does a little bit. Kind of, if I had to compare it to anyone, it would almost be like how LaFleur is with the Packers now, where it's kind of hybrid, a little bit of everything. But anyways, I thought Canales is going to run the ball. He's already said he's going to run the ball. So anyone that thinks that's going to change is not. If anyone looked at their big free agent signings, it was 2 offensive guards. I think that's really good self-awareness. Not only with, hey, how can we make our potentially underwhelming quarterback look okay? How can we make his life easier? Well, you run the ball. But you can't just have a mindset and then you just go, yep, it's going to happen. Like Canales ran the ball as much as anyone last year, and they were easily the worst run game last year.
Yeah.
So
terrible,
just absolutely awful. But he's going to do it like that. Which I'm a big believer into. But that's going to try and give. even if they only get 2 or 3 yards on first and second down, makes it 3rd and 5, not another 3rd and 10, not another 3rd and 12. At least just make those things easier. So I think that's where it's going to be. I would be buying into the run game. I think it's going to be a solid run game. But then passing the ball with Young, see what Canales did the best with Baker was that he stopped turning his back to the defense. Baker, and I've kind of repeated this a few times, but this is my best way to kind of do. Baker is a traditional air raid quarterback. He is a catch the ball in the shotgun, drop 3 steps, and get rid of the ball, dropping back. You don't want him turning his back. You don't want him dropping too deep. You don't even want him throwing quick game too much. You want him throwing intermediate to deep concepts, and you don't want him turning it back. So it's a very specific type of ask, kind of old schooly type of ask. And Canales did it. This was the most Baker had true dropbacks his entire career, the highest dropback attempts, I should say, that where he was just no play action, no RPOs. And I thought that, and Canales did a little bit with Geno, but I thought that was very smart. Hey, this is what he's good at. Let him launch it. Who are our best players? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, when he's healthy. Those are our best players. So let's make the offense conducive for them. When you do play action, you limit the routes. You only can run a certain amount of routes, and you only can run a certain amount as far as like how many guys are out there, and also types of routes. It's usually overs, it's usually posts, not usually getting that crafty receiver-oriented play in those types of offenses. So I just really like that Canales streamline things. I thought the offense, the run game sucked, but it wasn't conceptually sucky. It was personnel bad.
Yes.
Which that's the difference. That's why I'm optimistic about it. That's why it's kind of like there's some disconnects between like, well, Matt Canada's run game was bad, but it's like, yeah, but it's stunk conceptually. That's why that one was making fun of, and Canales I'm not making fun of. But getting to the Panthers, they're going to run it. I think with Bryce Young, I'm interested in what they think he's best at. I think RPOs will help him out, which I've seen Canales use a little bit. But so RPOs will help him out. I think straight dropbacks will help him out. Bryce Young's very smart. I wrote this in my article. I think that's a double-edged sword with him, though. I think he has a ton of self-awareness of what he is, which is small, not the biggest arm. Whenever Bryce Young feels like he's late, he's either checking the ball down or throwing the ball away. If he feels just a half step late, okay, I got to get rid of the ball. Like bail out of this. That's it. It's hard. It's like if I'm teaching a high school kid that, I love it. Like, hell yeah. Like no negative plays. Every drive ends with a punt. You don't take a guy number 1 to be the eject guy and just get out. And like, you don't, that's a whole another discussion on Young. But I think what Young is good at is if you keep it clean in front of him, he can rip the ball. He can throw drop back concepts. So I think you're going to see some of that Bakerization. But this is a lot of buts. You don't have Mike Evans. You don't have Chris Godwin. So how does that look with Bryce Young, who doesn't have the arm of Baker Mayfield, and not Mike Evans? You have Adam Thielen. You have, what's his face? Deontay Johnson. You have Xavier Legette they added. I'm not as high on Deontay Johnson as other people. So I think
we're two. Yes, okay. Exactly. I'm not into him.
What are people seeing?
I don't know. I have no idea.
People I respect too. So I never like when I'm on shows with him, I never want to speak up, but okay, I could say it here.
Go for it.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. But anyways, so it's just not the same type of personnel, even if I think he does streamline it. So I think this offense will improve. It has to. It can't get any worse. But I don't think it's going to improve to top 12. I think it'll improve to like 22nd, somewhere 24th. And I think Canales is probably gum and toothpicking the hell out of that to get it to that. Young's got to show more. He's got to push the ball. He's got to try stuff. He has to, because what he showed was too safe. The circumstances sunk last year. Don't get me wrong, but he didn't help or make it better. He kind of was like a running back that if it's blocked for 4 yards, he got 4 yards. And yes, there's qualities to that, but that's why I keep coming back to the Alex Smith comparison. Alex Smith was also 6'4", 215. That's a whole another discussion. But with Young, it's kind of, he's a little too safe right now. And I'm hoping Canales can kind of like light a fire under him. Like, hey, try some stuff. Like, take a little risk, smoke some cigarettes. Let's try some things out.
I feel like on Young particularly, he's too passive. I feel like he's just like, I'm gonna let things happen the way they should happen. He doesn't have this mojo that, for example, Stroud has. Stroud has the
Right.
poise. He has, of course, I think he's more talented, anyways. But like
The offense
Anthony
plays to
Richardson,
Stroud's. They play to
yes,
Stroud's tempo. Like it's
yes,
Stroud is
exactly. It's
he
mine.
sets the beat. Yeah, it's
Yeah, this
mine. It's
shit is
my
mine.
beat.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
at my beat. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, but my question is on this. The whole thing is like, okay, so do you feel that Canales is equipped to become this head coach and to be kind of successful? Because I have a very positive view on him. I don't think he's amazing, like top 5, top 10, but I do like him. And
I
the
do.
discussion we had, like João and me, and like we have different views. I don't think João see him as this guy apart from being
Yeah.
mediocre, which is good enough,
No.
right? Like middle.
Yeah. Uh, I have a problem with people treating him as an offensive genius.
Yeah, I'm
He might be, but we haven't seen that yet. Yeah, but
No.
a lot of people in Brazil are saying that in some
That's
discussion
Yeah.
groups.
He's
I
like
don't
Kirk
see that.
Cousins tier of coordinators.
Yeah. Okay.
That-
I'm good with
he
that.
gets the job done. He does some nice things, but he's not revolutionary. Like he's not.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very straight. He operates a good streamlined offense. Everything they do is sound, but I'm not. It's stuff you can take and everything, but it's not set me at least. And we don't know, like you said, it's 1 year. So, but it's not me. It's not one of the ones where I'm like, I watch that Bucks offense, and that's the stuff I would be stealing. Like the Rams, I would be stealing.
Yeah.
The Dolphins, I'd be stealing. Like there's a
The
few other
Cardinals
offenses.
defense, right?
The
Which was
Cardinals
like
defense, Cardinals
completely
offense too.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, the Lions offense. Like that's the stuff I would be stealing. His is more like, yeah, that's check the box, like solid. Like, and that's why I keep going. He's the Kirk Cousins tier. He's the Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins tier of coordinator.
Perfect.
Checks the box, gets the job done.
Nice, nice. So okay, so let's go for I think that is the fun part, and talking a little bit about fantasy, and when I say fantasy, it's more like offensive players, I would say, unless we're gonna go IDP and we're gonna be here until like tomorrow. But what are the 5 rookie guys that you guys have that you are most excited about? Okay, 4. Let's make 4 because we already know it's Drake May for all of us. So we can skip this one. We already spoken
Okay.
about him a little bit. So yeah. So João, you go first. Tell me one guy that you're really, really excited for.
One guy. Just
Well,
one?
the first one that comes to mind. Yeah, we have
first
4. So
Yeah. Okay. It's Lad McConkey. I love the opportunity. I like the talent. And he's playing with Justin Herbert. And
all right.
that's basically
That's a great argument.
Yeah.
How I look at it is where else is the ball going?
Yeah.
Like, they might throw it only 20, 25 times, but I bet you he gets a lot of those. So,
There's no one else to catch the ball. Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
I love Lad. That's a great call. That's a really good call. Love Justin
All right.
Herbert too.
What about you, Nate? Which one would you be like the top of the list apart from Drake?
I know my shtick, and so like I originally for my answers for this were not fantasy oriented, but I do have fantasy ones that are fantasy positions because originally I was like, oh, Graham Barton, center for the Bucks.
Oh yeah,
Can't
no.
wait.
Yes.
Troy
By the way,
Fontenot.
I fell in love with Barton because of you, because you've been talking about him so much, and I was like, I really know he's amazing, but the Packers are never going to draft him just because we're talking about him too much.
It was the structure. It was the structure of our shows led to me talking about him so much, and it wasn't inadvertently. It wasn't like he was like my favorite. It was just like, yeah, I think he's underappreciated. But then how we did the show, we did reverse mock, so that was his range. So his name kept coming up, and then Robert just thought it was so funny, and I was like, all right, now I'm the Barton guy. But it's like, yeah, But speaking of, we were just talking about the Bucks and Canales and everything. A lot of their stuff was personnel, their run game, and now they got who I thought was one of the best interior guys that could play. He's going to be center for them, which I think is great. He'll really, I think, have a boost effect on them. But getting off the offensive lineman, Trey Benson, running back for the Cardinals. They drafted him in the 3rd round. I just again excited about the Cardinals offense. I think their run game is going to be really cool. I think they invested into it, and I think they have a really. I think the Cardinals. I'm so excited to watch this year. But love James Conner. Definitely think he's going to be leading to start the season. But I think Benson dynasty, but also just even redraft leagues and best ball, second half of the year, last 8-ish weeks, Conner might get beat up a little bit. He always misses a game or 2, maybe 3. That's where he takes over and takes the reins from it because I think Benson's so explosive. It's going to be a good ecosystem for him. As far as to get touches and good touches, I think this offense is going to be a good offense. So yeah, very excited to watch Trey Benson. And I just like him as a player.
That's a great call, and I was going to ask about Connor, and I think you answered it beautifully. My first guy, the second guy I have on my board because the first one is Drake May for sure. It's Keon Coleman. I'm so high on him, and the thing that I like. Okay, first of all, he has, as I said before, the mojo. Like his interviews are the best ones for this draft
Best.
cycle. He's a very nice guy. The whole thing of buying a jacket and like everything that
Yep.
he has been saying, it's amazing to watch.
Charisma
But
off the charts. Like just
yes,
like
yes,
truly.
this is the guy that like you look at him like you want him to be successful because he's just amazing. He seems like an amazing person. But I also the thing that I think got me the most was during the whole testing cycle. He had like a fantastic gauntlet, right? So he was like
Yep.
getting all of the balls, and I remember last year one of the guys that was very good at the gauntlet thing was Puka, and I was like, this guy, he knows how to run, he knows how to kind of change his
Yes.
body. So I was super excited about him, and not bad. He's with Josh Allen, so I think he's going to be in a fantastic offense, which needs like kind of this juice. So I'm pretty high on him for the cycle and also for dynasty. I do think he's going to become like this alpha dog. So yeah. So the first
Love
one's
that.
okay. So we have these ones. João, what about your second one?
Yeah, I don't want to steal your guy. I'm
Go
gonna
for
leave it
it.
him to you. No.
No, go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say Marshall Lloyd.
All right, all right.
And it's mostly because of everything you sold me. You sold him to me. Because
Is that what
the
it is?
talent, the situation, even though Josh Jacobs is there, yeah, I don't see that as a long-term thing.
Yeah.
And I must
Yeah,
make a
it's not.
disclaimer that I'm talking dynasty here,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
no, no.
mostly play dynasty.
But even for this year, the Packers are not a team that has a bell cow or like the
No.
workhorse type. You
Yeah,
always have a kind of this distinct shared.
yeah.
Last year you had like Aaron Jones with AJ Dillon, and Dillon was always, even though he was not very effective, especially in the beginning of the year, but he was always there. So I would say that Lloyd has this a path for constant
Mhm.
play. And yeah, and I, as before the draft, I was comparing him to Aaron Jones. So I think like he's
Yeah.
the blueprint for the younger Aaron Jones. I really love Marshawn Lloyd. Yeah.
No, no, it's a good one. That's yeah, that's an opportunity one too. And just how Jacobs looked last year, kind of just had. I love Josh Jacobs, but he just had to kind of just step off. And
He was
that Raiders
very bad
offense,
last year. Number wise, he was very
yeah,
bad. Yeah.
I know. And even watching it, and then I watched Jameer White at the end of the year, and he looked better, or
Yeah.
at least that equivalent to, which is yeah. And again, it gets into circumstances and everything. So yeah, that's a good one. And I just love that Packers offense could be a lot of fun.
Yes.
I know, because that's why you can't really even pick a fantasy guy for him. It's like whichever one breaks out. Because I have Luke Musgrave. I think in every dynasty league, I was a big Luke Musgrave guy, so I have him. And then I love Tucker Kraft. And it was funny. I love Tucker
I
Kraft,
love Kraft. I
and
love
the
Kraft.
Packers
Yeah.
took both. And I was just like, oh dang it, you're making me pick. Kraft looked great at the end of last year.
Yes.
Holy
Yes.
crap! I know I was starting to go like, oh shoot, he might be even better Musgrave. But the fact that they have both is awesome. I know Kraft has kind of come back from, what did he have? Some
Was a foot
injury.
injury,
He's
right?
slow back. Yeah, he's been slow coming back from it. So I'm keeping an eye on that. But if we're getting to rookies, man, I was gonna say I'm excited to watch the Bears duo, Caleb Williams and Roman Tuesday. And that's just long-term fantasy. But that's also just X and O scheme. Watching them, I'm excited to watch. I know I'm a
It's
Packers
okay. You
pod,
can be
so
excited by the Bears. It's
I
fine. It's
am. I
fine.
love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I love Caleb. I think he's gonna be a lot of fun. I don't think I don't think I'm out on a limb here. It's not gonna like exactly set the world on fire right away. The NFL is gonna be really hard. So I just want everyone to pump the brakes. Like I know what we're expecting here. I think everyone's
Yeah.
expecting
A lot
Michael
of people
Jordan
are
right away.
anointing Caleb to be like the
Uh,
next
uh,
Mahomes right off
right
the bat.
away.
Yeah.
And I know, and it's so funny too. That even how he plays, I end up comparing him to Drew Brees coming out of Purdue,
Yeah.
not Drew Brees in the pros, because of just his accuracy, how he's able to move around and stuff. And that's like I think there's a disconnect of how he plays without what people are expecting to. So that's gonna be a fun one to watch. It's not like Chicago's a small market that everyone will gloss over. Yeah, so yeah, can't wait for that first 3-pick game, 2-pick game where they lose and everyone goes, did they bust? And like Jane Daniels runs for 200 yards. Like, oh, I can't wait for that one. He'll be fine. He's gonna be great. But him, I think it's a great system or situation as well, fantasy wise.
True.
He runs a little bit, but he is a thrower. He's a thrower first. He's going to try and create big plays. He can do it in the red zone. Yeah, I love Caleb. And then Dunze, maybe not for this season. I think he's going to be more of a complementary piece this season, like a good complementary piece. But year 2 and year 3, I think it's just going to go boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
Love him. I think one of my favorite players in a while that I've watched at any position. Personality, testing, on the field, how he plays on the field, versatility, badass. I love a Roman Dunze. I can't wait to
I was so mad when he went to the Bears because for me he was wide receiver 1 in this cycle, and I remember you guys discussing the show, like the pre-draft shows, and saying like, "Oh, Robert didn't want to talk about him at the Bears because he didn't want to have his dreams crushed." I was like, he's going to fucking go to the Bears, and I'm gonna be pissed during draft night. Because for me, he was like the best receiver. He feels to me like a Mike Evans type of player, which is like he's always going to be underrated. People are going to be, because you have Marvin Harrison Jr. on the same cycle, but he's always going to produce. I think he's unfailable. So he's this guy that cannot go wrong.
That's the term I always came back to, and I've said a million times, is scheme proof, like situation proof. Like no matter where he ended up, I'd be like, yep, he's going to be fine. Like that's his skill set, which is not a lot of receivers, especially. You can kind of say that about.
Yeah. I love Odunze. Yeah, Odunze was actually my third name in this thing. So I'm gonna go for my fourth one, which is and we talk a little bit about this guy, which is Jalen Polk. I'm really, really high on him.
We traded blows then. That was the one I had. So there we go. Perfect.
Yeah. So Polk for me is like this quarterback friend, where he's going to bail you out. Everything that you do that's not perfect, he's going to help you make it perfect. I think pairing with Drake May for me was like the best pairing that he could have, because they're going to become best friends. You mentioned Robert Woods as kind of his comparison to like the way his game is, and I think it's a fantastic comparison. I would also say that he has some DJ Moore type of thing, where he's always running to the place that he needs to be. And I really, really like him. I really like Jalen Polk. I'm trying to get him everywhere because he's now at a discount. Maybe not after the people listen to this show, but yeah, Jalen Polk is someone that I really, really love.
Love him. Another Dunze's teammate. He was one of my kind of babies of this draft cycle, and it was kind of one of those. Robert actually joked with me about it because I had him as a borderline first rounder, and not true. Like my grade was not a first round grade; it was an early second round grade. But how it's board stacked up, he ended up at like 34 on my big board. And I was like, yeah, I know I'm high. He'll probably go a little later than that. And he ended up going like 35, or like right exactly where I had him. And Robert like looked at me like, what'd you know? I was like, no, I actually, like, this was just, I thought I was going to be out on a limb, but I just wanted to like prove a point. It's like, I think this guy's going to be good in the pros. And then like I learned down the road, Peter Schrager hinted at it. And I've talked to other people. Everyone's like, I love that guy. I would say there's at least 10 teams that I know where like that was their baby of the draft. So I was like, yes, all right. Hopefully the league is right for once. No, I think he's a high end number 2, like a perfect high end number 2, where does the blocking, he's a Z third down. He's nice. He's a zone beater. He's good feeling coverage. Yeah. I'm a big fan. Steve Smith compared him to TJ Hushmanzada. So yeah, I know all the fun, like do everything receiver has been Robert Woods and TJ Hushmanzada. That's like a good comparison for Jalen Polk.
Yeah, he's going to be on the field for like 100% of the time. You mentioned the blocking. That's also something that I loved about him. Like he's always willing to do the dirty work. Not comparing him in talent wise, but it's the same as I saw with Puka. Puka, you see last year, he was always like trying to block, always kind of, I don't mind if I'm not getting the ball, I'm gonna block because Cam Akers and then Kyron Williams are coming behind me. So yeah. What about you, João? So what do you have as a fourth?
Yeah, I'm gonna go super deep now.
Love it.
Go for it.
Yeah, New Orleans Saints undrafted free agent tight end Dalen Holker.
Okay.
Ooh.
I know that is. Yeah.
That's what I love this show, and that's what I love João. He comes with the names that nobody expects to. Go for it, man. Why?
I haven't watched a lot of tape of him because there's not a lot of tape for him.
There's not.
Yeah, but I like what I see. He's a really good pass catcher, not a great blocker, but he's a move tight end, and that's a position that really doesn't exist on the Saints roster. We have Juwan Johnson, but I don't really like him. So
yeah, he's kind of tapered off for me too. He's kind of gone downhill. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's opportunity right away for him, and I think he might take advantage of that.
Nice. Okay, that's a good name for us to be kind of the lookout. That's nice.
That's a fun one. That's a real fun one.
What about you, Nate?
I know. Now I want to dig in my bag. I know. Because I was keeping it on the front. Like AD Mitchell will probably be my next one, and that's Dynasty more because I think it'll take a little bit before you can kind of.
Why him?
Just God, he does things that you can't teach, and this is a heart and head one, where I see the stats, I see some of the taking plays off, and I'm just like, oh man, that's red flag. Those are red flags. But then you watch him, there's not a lot of 6'3", 6'4" guys that move like that. And he's in a good circumstances with that head coach who gets the most out of his players, and he's with a quarterback I think he respects. I think that was some of it with AD Mitchell, was that I don't think he really liked Quinn Ewers. This is just me watching on tape. This is not anything I've heard off of me. I think that's a big thing sometimes with receivers. They get into a more conducive circumstances. So I think there's best balls ahead of him, but he can jump out of the gym. He can, like, I think instantly he'll have a red zone role, and then more will come as he kind of gets more comfortable. But he's a good route runner. And can do some of the advanced routes not a lot of 6'4" guys can do. I'm not comparing him to this guy, but another guy that comes to mind, like what Julio used to be able to do, where he can run in and out of breaks very fast at 6'3", 6'4". AD has some of those qualities. Julio was 30 pounds heavier. But AD has some of those qualities where that's a big man moving while also having ball skills, exceptional hand-eye coordination. I'm a guy, again, size I defer to. He's an X. Not a lot of X's come along, X receiver come along, and he is a traditional one that I think could be one. So he's a guy for dynasty reasons. I'm trying to get up a little bit. I'm in 5 dynasty leagues. I have Jalen Polk in every single one of them. I've AD Mitchell.
You're doing this right, my friend. You're doing this right.
And I have AD Mitchell in 2 of them. Oh, and I've traded. Oh, I've done so much. I was just making sure. I was like, he's safe. But AD Mitchell is more of there's a ton of bust to him. I think him and Polk couldn't be any more different. Where it's either AD Mitchell is going to be your number 1, or he's not on your roster. Like, that's how I picture his career.
Harry.
But I think he can be a 1. I really do. So, but yeah, he's that type of home run thing. If I want to get a little more niche, Jared Wiley, tight end, Chiefs, just for dynasty reasons, just down the road. To take that Travis Kelce succession plan. I think he'll play more than people realize as a rookie.
What about Noah Gray? He's not enough then.
My dirty work guy. No, Noah Gray is there, like,
because I have Noah Gray in my 2 dynasties. I'm not willing to let him go because this guy is the Kelce successor.
No, Noah Gray is there, like, oh God, we need someone to do a role. Noah, fill it in. Like, Noah, like, that's what he is. What's great to have on your team. Not great for fantasy, but yes, Wiley has actual receiving upside. So, like, I think he'll play a little bit this year because they like their tight ends, but I think down the road, like, I think he has potential to be that succession play. He's playing with Mahomes. Good dart throw to make.
All right, a question on this one. So, because my 4th it's a question mark. My 5th is a question mark, actually, which is Worthy, right? So Xavier Worthy, which is on the Chiefs. So, what is your take on them? What do you have for me, Nate? And what do you have for me, João?
I'm not high on Worthy. It's a size thing. Also because he doesn't play big. He that's the difference between him and Tank Dell. Tank Dell is tiny but plays big and can win on the outside. Worthy played on the outside and he has some route running stuff, but I always thought that press and more physical corners gave him issues where he couldn't unlock that speed. The drop stuff is what I come back to. It's just the inconsistencies, because even when he didn't have drops, he had a lot of double catches, and especially a lot of double catches working over the middle, where size and everything. I'm again not saying he's not tough or anything, but it's just saying that it comes up. He's looking down to make sure he's not getting hit because he wants to catch and run around a guy. So those types are day 2 guys to me. Those are as far as real draft. I would rather take him in the 3rd round than late first. That's how I view that type of skill set. I think he's more of a complementary piece than a guy that becomes a 1 or even a high end 2. But I think it'd be like a low end 2 for the Chiefs. But again, you're going to a great ecosystem, so it's like, it's for fantasy. He can outplay some of that. Then maybe I'm putting him at.
All right. What about you, João? What is your take on Xavier Worthy?
Yeah. Once again, I agree with everything Nate said. I have the same view on him.
Yeah, I'm not bullish on Worthy. I think people are overselling this thing of he's in the Chiefs and because of that he's going to produce. He's a 1st round draft pick. I do understand the whole thing of draft capital to a point. I don't buy this anymore because we have seen so many cases of people being drafted late and kind of produce. Again, my Puka Nakua succession, like this is my success. I'm gonna die with this.
There's Chris Godwin in the 3rd round.
Exactly.
Nico Collins in the 3rd round. I mean, all these guys they're coming out. Devontae Adams round 2. It's like they come from everywhere.
We don't need to start with the Packers because like Romeo does, Dontavian Williams,
Jordy Nelson.
Yes, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. Like we don't have first round.
They come from everywhere.
Yeah, but worthy for me is it's too limited because of his size. He simply cannot get big. He's not going to get like bulky and strong. And if he does, which I think is completely impossible, he's going to lose his main trait, which is speed, which is like the running.
Which is why you draft
past people.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then like he becomes this person who you already have on your roster, or you have like options for that. So I'm not too bullish on him. I'm kind of not drafting him at all when it comes to fantasy, even though I might get burned at the end of this year and maybe on Dynasty, but I'm completely fine with losing this one. All right, so one question now for this, so we can close the rookies ones is, well, João, you kind of jumped the gun to a point, but it was amazing that you gave kind of your sleeper. But Nate, do you have someone that we or the media itself has not talked a lot about that would like to mention? Because I have one.
Oh, do you? Oh man. Oh well, this is more like just keep an eye on it. Is Audric Estime, 5th rounder to the Broncos? More because I can tell Sean Payton doesn't like Javonte Williams. You can just tell. Like you can just hear it. So that's why. Okay, he's out. Same JP Ryan. Samaje P. Ryan is there's no investment in. He's a role player anyways. Jaleel McLaughlin, who I actually like, is a role player. He's a complimentary player. He's a scat back, and Sean Payton likes having those on the roster. That's a guy that gets 7 touches, not 20.
Yeah.
So just doing math, and what I also really like Estime. I didn't think the 4.740. I thought he ran like a 4.58 as pro day, and I thought that was more apt to what he was. But I think size, footwork, decent vision, pretty good vision, but he has some burst to him and balance to him. So Sean Payton likes those types. Like he likes the guys that pound it that he can pound it with. So that's a guy that I could see being in that Mark Ingram role, that type of player in this type of offense where, maybe not this year, maybe the second half of this year, but I think down the road.
All right. I would say that for me, I have one name that I have spoken about before the draft process. It's a very, very deep name, but it's Jaden Sheridan from Monmouth. Monmouth, I think that's the name of the university.
Monmouth.
Yes, Monmouth. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's
trust me, I butcher the English language on a daily basis. As anyone who listens to the pod knows. So the fact that I can direct somebody, I'm like,
yeah. So that's the one guy that when I was looking into it, and again, I got to know this guy because of Jim Nagy. He was talking about the Senior Bowl and like how elusive he is. And his tape is just amazing. Like this is for me the 100% vibe, guys. He's currently with the Panthers. So he's doing the training camp with the Panthers. He was an undrafted free agent. And I do feel that he has the possibility of kind of carving a role there. And because he's so good, so productive, I do think that he might kind of pop up somewhere. So if like last pick of my Dynasty League or even going through the free agents, I'm taking this one. By the way, João, please don't take this on Dynasty. Leave it to me, okay? Please don't take it right now. Yeah, don't go for my guys.
Sleeper right now.
Yeah, exactly. Please don't do that. Yeah. All right, so just to finish it up, and this is going to be a very quick one. I just have a question to you too, which is, which are the 3 players, not rookies, but 3 players you guys are most excited about for this season? So Nate, just give us your 3.
I'm trying to give 3. Anthony Richardson is one.
All right.
I hopefully he plays all 17 games. I'm just beyond excited to watch what he does in that Colts offense. Jordan Love is another one. So pandering the crowd here, but yeah, Jordan Love, I'm excited. I was on Mina's show. I popped him as the 5th best quarterback, and I felt really good about it. And people acted like I killed their dog. And
exactly, that was a weird reaction. He showed
weird reaction.
He felt like a 5th best quarterback. Yeah,
he won a playoff game. He almost beat the 49ers. I'm like, what am I missing here? Even if you guys go to wins narrative, he already did that. Like, I know. So yeah, so those 2, very excited, along with Stroud. I should mention him as well. But just to throw us in there, let's just get a little defensive guy in here. Keanu Benton for the Pittsburgh Steelers, defensive tackle. I think he's going to blow up this year. I was high on the draft process. He went to the same college I did, University of Wisconsin, but that's not why I'm high on him. It's Mauler. I think he only had like a sack last year, but I think he's going to be starting there. I think that defense could be pretty good. And I think he's going to like really make an impression on people. So Keanu Benton, defensive tackle for the Steelers.
Awesome. What about you, João?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a guy that Nate mentioned earlier, Will Levis, who also surprised me.
Yeah.
I didn't like him too much during the pre-draft process, but I like what I saw from him last year, and I think he's going to elevate that offense, and the Titans are going to surprise a lot of people.
Okay,
Yeah.
he is going to elevate the offense, or the offense is going to elevate him because he now has like two very good wide receivers, right? So,
Yeah, it's
It's a,
symbiotic.
it's a little both. A little both.
all right, good to
They're
know.
shaking hands. They're shaking hands. It's like,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
And I'm gonna go with another quarterback, and for my former team, it's Derek
Former
Carr.
team.
Oh,
I I want to see what he does with the huge upgrade he might have at offensive coordinator. Because I mean, Pete Carmichael wasn't doing a very good job, and we got Clint Kubiak, who is Gary Kubiak's son. So I know he knows ball.
it's just assuming all that. It
Yeah,
can't get worse. It can't
yeah.
get worse. That's another thing.
And I
Yeah.
actually like how Derek Carr finished last season. I think he improved a lot in the second half of the season,
The
and I
last
want to
month
see if he can
he definitely played
carry
better.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. That at Houston game was bad. That was the one. And then after that, he kind of got like kind of the last 4-ish weeks. He's
Yeah,
6-ish
yeah, yeah,
weeks, give or take,
yeah. Not
4-ish
half. Yeah,
weeks. Yeah. But no, but yeah, but he did. I agree with you that he definitely played well. I remember week 18 against the Falcons. He played really well.
All right, interesting names. Interesting names.
I love it.
I'm going with, and this is something that, of course, when people listen to this, they're gonna come to me. They're gonna come at me, especially on WhatsApp, which is Dontavian Wicks. I do feel that he is the Packers wide receiver one, even though I am a Dubs fan, and I will always like tweeting out when Packers were playing like good things happen when you target Romeo Dubs. Romeo Dubs is the dirty work person at the Packers. He's not flashy, but he kind of does the job. But Dontavian Wicks, especially how he finished last year, it's like this guy is an alpha. This guy is it's going to be big. So that's the first one. I'm curious, even though it pains me to say this, I'm curious to see how Keenan Allen is going to play in this offense with the Bears. So I'm kind of very curious to see if he can be this kind of Keenan Allen of old with this new offense, this new structure. He does not have the pressure to be an all-around guy. He has Jay Moore, he has like Odunze, so he doesn't need to be targeted all the time. But every time he's targeted, I expect him to be productive, right? Um, and the third person, again, being a homer, and of course, I watch more of the Packers than anything, it's Carl Brooks from defense. I
Love
also
Carl
feel that
Brooks.
he came like out of nowhere last year. He kind of got things together. He played because of injuries, and I do feel he has a fantastic build for a defensive tackle. So I do feel he is the mainstay to be kind of side by side with Kenny Clark. So I'm really, really bullish on him becoming kind of this guy that everybody's going to be talking about by the end of this year. So again,
Love him.
not fantasy related, those names that we put it out, but I think are names to be recognized.
I love that one. If you do want one fantasy name, it's Drake London.
Yes, yes,
I'm
yes,
excited to watch what he does this year with that offense, that quarterback play. So yeah,
yes. I have
love
him
London.
everywhere. Yes.
Yeah, I love him. He's still good. It's like that's the thing. It's like he's still good. It's just that no one's watched the Falcons maybe besides me. But it's just, but it's no. London's like he's a good player, and I'm excited for it. Hopefully, he blows up a little bit this year.
He is good. He's a good player on an offense that didn't give him any favors. So like
Oh,
it can only get better from now. So yeah, as a true a wide receiver one for this team, having the pressure off with Bijan and having kind of Kyle Pitts also there, that's going to be amazing. He can flourish a lot. Yeah, looking forward to him. All right,
absolutely.
guys. Nate, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. It was amazing having you. I mean, we all wanted to kind of talk to you. Thanks for replying to us on Twitter
Yes.
and kind of getting to do this. Thanks, João, for participating also and joining us and giving your takes and agreeing with Nate and not agreeing with me sometimes. That's completely okay. Nate, do you have any final question or anything that you want to share with us? I know that you now are working full time for the Yahoo, right? You're writing
Yes.
some stuff. You're going to have a podcast coming up after July,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken. So yeah,
Yes.
just tell us a little bit about what's coming up.
I just finished my kind of quartet of second year quarterbacks articles. I just finished with CJ Stroud, which was a lot of fun. Take a little break from writing for just a few weeks around our 4th of July holiday, and then other things in July. But then, yeah, well, our podcast will be starting. It'll be July 20th that week, July 22nd. So the second to last week of July, probably start rolling out, be twice a week. But you start hearing that getting rolling during camp, during the season, all that fun stuff. Mostly be me, Charles, and McDonald at Yahoo. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And then what else do I got going? That's really it as far as work wise. Other than that,
Awesome.
yeah, just good vibes. So yeah, no,
All right,
I
man.
very appreciate you guys having me on. This is a ton of fun. I'm excited you guys are getting a game in Brazil. That it's gonna be a lot of fun. Packers Eagles game should be a lot of points too. So thankfully that's a perfect kind of circumstances for a national game. So yeah, no, very excited. So thank you guys for having me on, dude.
All right, thanks a lot. Yeah, and for all of you guys, keep on the lookout. We have a lot of content coming up with the BRFF, Brazil Fantasy Football, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.